time ago in England. In England there was a young man and he was going out into the world. And this meant, of course, one thing. He was going out in the hopes of falling in love. And before the days we live in now where it's, very interesting to try and fall in love as you post your status and tweet about what you might be feeling about the person, it's a little bit different. There were dance halls. And the young men would go to the dance halls and the young women would go to the dance halls and they would stand on either side. And you might see one you liked. And you would have to cross the great chasm. You know it, don't you? Some of you have been there. That great cold isolation where nobody is dancing. Keep your eyes on your target and ask her to dance. So there he was with his friends. And they were cutting a fine figure. And he saw this girl walk in. Oh! You know what I'm talking about. He saw her. He didn't even know he was walking across the chasm. Didn't even notice. Got straight up to her. Hello. Hello. Will you dance? I will. And they danced. Well, he was smitten. He was absolutely falling towards the bigger chasm of love. And then he said, can I call on you tomorrow? She said, maybe. She had that kind of fire. He called on her the next day, they went walking. He called on her the next day, they went walking. And the next, by about the 5th day, he knew this was it. She had everything. And there was a certain protocol that had to be followed. She had to meet his parents to approve the match. Now, his mother had died, so only his father left. So there, that following weekend, he said, I'm going to bring you to meet my dad. And she said, are you now? And so they walked together, and his father was sat out in the back garden on the bench, and he walked in, real proud. He said, Dad, I would like you to meet this wonderful young woman. And the father knew what this meant. This was the prelude to the marriage. And the dad was sitting there. Well, come on here and sit down with me a minute. Oh, I'd be glad to, she said. And he looks over at his son and he says, boy, go get me that boulder. And the son looks where his father is pointing. His father's pointing at the boulder that has lived in their garden his entire 16 years of life. It's embedded in the garden. He looks at his dad again and his dad goes, go get that for me, will you? But the young woman is watching. Yeah, sure, no problem. Give me a minute, warm up the muscles. And he goes again, but that boulder is embedded. He manages to just shift it up maybe a centimetre before he hears his father say, would you really marry him? And the young woman is looking and she goes, and she gets up and walks out of the garden without a word. The young man can't believe it. His own father. Well, he won't be caught out like that twice. So he goes out and he starts every day lifting rocks. Starts small. Works up. Bigger. Not as big as the boulder, but bigger. Every day. Doesn't think he's going to meet another girl, but just in case, you never know. Muscles are growing. He's going to the dance halls. There's no one like her. You know, she was nothing like that. But he's there one night and all of his friends are going, just ask someone else. Come on. And this girl walks in. And she's a little willowy reed of a girl. She's got beautiful long hair. She just kind of glides in like a lost flower. And he thinks, all right. She looks nice. Goes over. Hi. Would you like to dance? all right, they dance. And she's nice. He says, can I call on you tomorrow? And she says, oh yes. All right. They go walking. They go walking. You know what happens? He decides. This is it. This is the one. This is it. Definitely. Following week, he says, I'd like you to meet my dad. And she says, oh, I'd like that. And so they walk into the garden. The father's on the bench. And he says, Dad, I'd like you to meet this lovely young woman. Dad says, she looks lovely. Would you ever come down and sit down here a minute? The son is already starting to flex on it. And he says, son. And the boy says, what? He says, would you ever get that boulder? And the boy goes, yes. And he manages to get a good purchase on the stone. And he manages to lift it a little bit out of its permanent hole in the ground. But it's really heavy. It's really heavy. And he drops it. And his dad says, honestly now, young woman, would you trust him with your future? Would he be strong enough to protect you? And she's looking and she goes, I guess not. And she gets up and she leaves. The young man can't even look at his father. Can't even look at the rock. He just goes into a depression. And he's in that depression for weeks. He thinks that's it. Never getting married. And his friends are pounding on the door. Come on. Just come to the... don't worry about the rock. Like, just come to the dance. Fine, he says. Several weeks have passed. But he knows this is it. He's never going to meet another woman ever. Right? He's already broken it twice. Never going to happen again. He goes to the dance and all the ladies are there with their He's not interested. He's standing there with his drink. Yeah. And then he hears something. He hears this little laugh. And it's one of those lovely little laughs that just catches your ear. And he looks over. And the girl that's laughing, she's got freckles and she's got kind of mousy brown hair. And her dress is kind of plain. And she looks up in the middle of her laugh and she sees him. And she kind of blushes a little bit. Hello? She says, hi. Do you wanna dance? Yeah, I'd love to. Takes her out the dance floor, and as they're dancing, he says something. She laughs again. It's the best sound. At the end of the dance, he says, can I maybe call on you tomorrow? We go for a walk. And she goes, please, that would be really lovely. He calls on her the next day. They walk and they talk. And the next day they walk and they talk. She's lovely and she's smart. And he tries to make her laugh as often as he can. And you know, as each day goes by, he's aware there's a pressure building. Because you can only walk with someone so long. Right? Before you have to do something about it. But he knows what doing something about it means. And he doesn't want to do that. But he sees it in her eyes. He knows the expectation is coming now. And he doesn't want her to feel, that he's rejecting her. So he says, I'd like you to meet my dad. She says, oh, all right. That would be good. Yeah. How's tomorrow? She says, great. Will you call for me? Yeah, I'll call for you. And the father, he greets them as always, sits her down on the bench. She sits down on the bench and he turns to his son. He doesn't even have to say it. The boy's already walking towards the boat. He says, will you lift me up that boulder and bring it here? Yeah. And he manages to get his hands deep into the earth. He manages to grip onto that rock and he's heaving. He is heaving. He's using his thighs, his back, his calves, his toes, But he knows it's not going to work. And then a shadow passes over his face. And there are two other hands on the other side of the boulder. And he looks up to a face full of freckles. And together, they lift the rock. not more than an inch above the ground before they have to put it down. And he hears his father's voice behind him saying, "Now son, that's a woman you want to marry."